Now then, hello folks and welcome back to my video gaming channel, Retro Gamer Diaries. Today we're talking about the 1991 Sega Master System game Asterix. I absolutely love the Asterix comics and also the cartoon movies. I used to have the full set of these comics and I seriously regret letting them all go. What the hell was I thinking of? Anyway, I also own and played and really enjoyed the Master System game. It definitely delivered the same spirit of these comics and cartoons. The game is based around the famous French comics of Asterix, where we follow the titular hero and his companion Obelix as they fight their way to Rome on a rescue mission. While it does feature famous characters, the real draw of the game is in the gameplay. Asterix has some of the best platforming on the system, with its well-designed levels, steady learning curve and two-player mode. The storyline of the game roughly follows the plotline of one of the earlier Asterix comics. In the game, the time is 50 BC and all of Gaul, that is France, is occupied by the Roman Empire, except for one tiny village where our heroes, Asterix and Obelix, live in. The reason they're able to hold out against the Romans is by using a magic potion made by the village druid Getafix. So, learning this, Caesar has Getafix kidnapped. Now we enter the game with Asterix and Obelix set up to rescue Getafix from Caesar's clutches. The storyline of the game is introduced by both the manual and a small sequence before the title screen using panels and text. During the game, the storyline is advanced through the use of a quick panel and text at the start of new levels. Even though the storyline in Asterix is not particularly involving or surprising, it does stay true to the comic books that it pulls from, keeping the character, tone and even storytelling method used since its inception. Considering this, coupled with the fact that platformers weren't really known for having stories at that time, and you get a pretty decent impression of this game's story elements. Asterix is a typical side-scrolling platform game where either Asterix or Obelix must navigate through each stage. In most stages, the player must locate a key that will open a door at the end of the stage. Some stages, a boss must be defeated to complete the stage also. The game is broken up into 8 different areas with between 1 and 3 stages in each area. The player starts with 3 lives and 3 health points. A health point is lost if the character is hit by an enemy, a life is lost if all health points are lost, or the character falls down a hole. Health points can be obtained by picking up certain items during the game. When certain bosses are defeated, a heart is obtained. Collecting this heart increases the health capacity by 1 point, and the character can have up to 6 of these health points. The player has a choice prior to each stage of choosing Asterix or Obelix to complete this stage. In level 1-1, the player must choose Asterix, and level 1-2, the player must choose Obelix. The game can be played with 1 or 2 players. In 2-player mode, each player takes turns at completing the stage. Player 1 plays the game as Asterix and player 2 plays as Obelix. The stages in the game differ depending on whether the player is playing the stage as Asterix or Obelix. Asterix has the ability to destroy blocks using a magic potion that can be picked up during the level. The block is destroyed by throwing the potion at the block and waiting for the potion to explode. Obelix is able to destroy blocks with a punch, and the potion used by Asterix is not available to Obelix. And both characters can defeat enemies with a punch. Obelix, being larger in size, is unable to access some of the parts of the level that Asterix would be able to access, and Asterix is unable to access some of the parts of the level due if the potion is unavailable, and Asterix is unable to break the blocks surrounding the area. Due to the differences in the characters, the maps for most of the levels are different for both Asterix and Obelix, making some of the levels more easy or difficult for each of the characters. Some levels are the same for both characters also. A bonus stage can also be reached by collecting 50 bones. The bonus stage is played by Dogmatix. In the bonus stage, Dogmatix must jump from bubble to bubble, popping each bubble along the way. A red bubble requires Dogmatix to jump on the bubble just once, and a yellow bubble, when jumped on, will turn red and then will be popped after the second jump. A green bubble will turn yellow after the first jump and then red on the second jump and requiring a third jump to pop the bubble. A bonus is awarded depending on the number of bubbles popped. There you go. The visuals in this game are head and shoulders above anything else the Master System had to offer at the time. The graphics for Asterix are so good they can compare with some 16-bit games. The heroes Asterix and Obelix are fully fleshed out, looking just like their comic book iterations were supplanted right into the game in an 8-bit glory. The enemies also look extremely detailed, from the Romans hiding as a flower to the mummy breaking out. You can see every petal on the flowers to every bandage on the mummies. However, if there was an overlooked aspect to the graphics, it would come in the backdrops to many of the stages, which fall far short of the otherwise high graphical standards of the foreground in the game. Yet, just as jaw-dropping as the actual graphics is the variety seen in the enemies and in environments. From the Roman hiding in a log in a forest to a swordfish in an icy world to the killer pot in a pyramid, Asterix ensures that it will never recycle enemies between levels. In fact, some enemies are unique to just one stage. Add that to the myriad of environments thrown at the player and you get a diverse array of visuals that keeps the game fresh from start to finish. The animation is also on an unparalleled level. Many key moves, such as the basic punch, have several animation frames rather than the more standard 2-frame animation for an 8-bit title. Add to the fact that the variety of the enemies comes a variety of ways to animate them, and it really becomes a wonder how they fit so much into a title working with so little. To be sure, however, there are some disadvantages to this. In some of the later levels, the screen gets to be too much for the Master System to handle, forcing slowdown in the game. Yet, even considering this, the superbly done animations of the numerous enemies and actions in the game is jaw-droppingly awesome. It really is. Now, with regards to the sound of the game, it is decent but a little bit unmemorable. The sound in the game doesn't blow you away, but doesn't detract from the experience either. The music in Asterix is generally happy-go-lucky and fits the theme of the levels. There are a couple of good ones like the castle music, but for the most part the music remains background noise that the player doesn't remember when the power is off. All of the sound effects do their job in accentuating the action on screen. Nothing pops out as offbeat, unfitting or especially annoying. Okay, now for the gameplay. Asterix is extremely well polished, sporting good controls, 2-player capabilities, 2 playable characters, different level designs based on the chosen character, well designed levels with a good difficulty curve, and is extremely fun to boot. The controls for a platformer are extremely important, and Asterix delivers with responsive controls that are pretty intuitive. Button 1 punches while button 2 jumps. You can also throw items by pressing up or down and button 1. Even though there are no special moves in the game, you can throw different items depending on what you have picked up. Anyways, the simple actions of jump, punch and throw are more than enough to allow the player to enjoy the game regardless. The only negative thing for some people may point towards is the noticeable lack of boss battles. However, there are no real obvious or major design flaws in the game. There are, however, a lot of positive design choices to rave about. Perhaps the best design choice is the different playstyles of our 2 heroes. Asterix is noticeably smaller and more agile, allowing him to fit in places Obelix just wouldn't be able to go. He also has an easier time navigating some platforming sections due to a seemingly better jump ability. On the other hand, while Asterix may be small and agile, Obelix is quite large and extremely powerful. Asterix requires the use of an explosive potion to destroy blocks. Obelix just smashes them. Yet, the best thing about the differences is the 2 playstyles of the heroes is that Sega alters the stage based on the character you choose. All the stages will still have the same basic design elements and require the same general tricks to navigate them, but the specific design of the stage is altered to play towards the strengths or weaknesses of the character you choose. The ability to play as 2 different characters with stages tailored directly to them adds to both the variety and replay value of the game. With 2 characters, it makes sense to make the game 2-player capable, and it is. Asterix allows 2 players to play with one playing as Asterix and the other as Obelix. The variety in level design is also a noticeable positive in the game. While some stages are pretty straightforward, especially the early ones, many encourage exploration, introduce new elements to the game, or require intelligent use of abilities in order to pass them. This forces the player to not only have good mechanical skills, but also to have an open mind, willing to try different things to make it past some of the puzzles. The variety and innovation in level design is carried out over to the enemies. The game very rarely repeats enemies in different levels. Every level brings new enemies with new tricks to be learnt. Even though the game throws many new things at you, none of them have a real gimmick feel. It all feels fresh and new while maintaining a consistently solid platforming design to back it up. Overall, and in my opinion, the design in Asterix is worthy of the highest praise. Depending on where you are in the game, you may think that the stage is too easy, just right, or pretty damn challenging. Asterix offers a perfectly scaled difficulty level to accommodate for a player's learning curve. I have to say though, the earlier levels are pretty easy. However, the game constantly pushes the player by keeping the game's difficulty tuned just right to push the player, but stops short of heartache and frustration. Keeping the difficulty level just right, not too easy, but not absurdly frustrating, is a difficult feat to accomplish, but Sega did it here. Asterix is a ton of fun to play. The ability to play with friends is always a benefit that a lot of games miss out on. Including multiplayer is always a huge plus. However, even without multiplayer, you can choose from the different characters and will have a grand time navigating the well thought out levels. If you beat the game once, you can always go back and try to beat the game using the opposite character you used on the levels. While the basic design is the same, it is different enough that it still allows for a new experience. On top of that, multiplayer always allows for some replay value while you compete with your buddies. For me, Asterix is a brilliant game for the Master System, but before I give my overall rating, let's have a look at the rest of the levels of this wonderful game.
You
Asterix was received very positively by most reviewers, getting mainly 9 out of 10s from reviewers. I was honestly surprised by playing Asterix on the Master System. It is the best platformer I've played in a long time. The unique characters, the stages tailored to the character chosen, well-scaled difficulty, intelligent and innovative level design, and multiplayer capabilities superseded my expectations. It all combines to make a really great game that is fun to play and shouldn't be missed by any game enthusiast. Therefore, I'm going to rate this game a 9 out of 10 stars, well deserved. Asterix is without a doubt one of the best platformers on the Sega Master System. It isn't genre changing, it's just an extremely well designed and executed game. It sets the standard for what games could and should be. Okay, well there you go folks, that was my review of the Master System game Asterix. If you liked this video, then please press like. However, it would be great for you to subscribe to my new channel and become part of my gang. Until my next Master System game review, have a good day. See you all later people. Bye bye.